Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Glad that we are now, Memorial Day weekend. Summer is here, or right around the corner. School's about to get out. And I want to open the show, Dorothy, by, and I'll introduce my guest by way of this story.
Okay.
So in 2007, I played in a golf tournament. I believe it was the Fellowship of Christian Athletes over at the Mid-Pines Golf Club. Mm-hmm. And after, it was a shotgun tournament, as I recall, and there was a big barbecue and a lunch afterwards, and there was going to be a guest speaker. And up to that point in time, I had lived here for about 8 years, played a lot of golf, tried to work hard, and followed the football program at Pinecrest, which was not a happy program. I remember looking at some of the scores of the games, 43-0, 51-10. The program was not in good shape, and I remember people even talking about disbanding the program, and which I thought would be terrible, because football is such an integral part of a school's environment, a culture, and one of the avenues of competitiveness that help student athletes grow. Mm-hmm. But they were embarrassing, as I recall. So I was sitting having lunch at this golf tournament, and my guest was introduced, and his name was Chris Metzger. And I kind of heard about him a little bit, that he was coming here from Naples, Florida, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Naples. And had been there for 4 years, and had a reputation that, he was going to be a program creator and rebuild the culture that was here. And to a lot of people here, he was, the people put it on his shoulders, he was going to be the savior, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Chris, you spoke at that lunch, and you talked a lot about the things you still talk about today, the 4 core principles that you adhere to, and you were talking about your plans to build a program, and I think you talked about the character more than you spoke about winning at that lunch, and do you recall it?
Yes, sir, because that's, I'm one of 6 kids, and that was kind of what we were raised on. A blueprint for being a champion in the game of life, even though all 6 of us were involved in extracurricular activities, and it all revolved around, loving one another, giving perfect effort, having laser focus, and trusting, like it was trusting our Savior, it was trusting our parents,
right?
Trusting our teachers, trusting our coaches, and that's kind of where it came from, our 4 pillars and our blueprint, which focusing on champions in the game of life.
I remember reading something about the record of Pinecrest. I think they had a record of 9-76 before you got here, and today, as you've left, I think your record was 111-58.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? Okay,
yes, sir.
That's a complete turnaround. 14 years is a long time.
Yes, sir.
And take me back to Naples first, because I want to ask you about the transition that you're about to make to Montgomery County. You were there for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
And you came here, and one of the reasons I read that you came here was because how expensive it was to live on the west coast of Florida.
No doubt. Had 3 small children. It was very expensive, and I just wanted to get near family. Had the great opportunity up here, and it kind of all worked out. Had a coaching buddy, a guy I met at Fellowship of Christian Athletes Black Mountain Coaches Camp, who had been an NFL Division I coach and knew about this position because one of the staff members at Liberty, his parents retired here. also told me it was eerily similar to Laley,
Right.
where we were at. And, the undefeated head coach, there were things that just kept lining up because we were offered the job 3 times. We took it the 4th time and are just so thankful for the persistence of the community leaders, Susan Purser,
Right.
wow, Joe County,
Yep.
Tom Benton, Harry Webb, Tom Van Camp. I mean, folks, Donnie Lee, folks that really wanted – and nobody ever mentioned the W word, win. It was, how can we be successful? What can we do to get kids out? And, the transition currently is eerily similar in that there's some unbelievable community leaders that just want to have kids out.
Right.
The numbers are beyond low. There's no middle school football. Youth numbers have gone down. So it's really an awesome opportunity and a grassroots effort to build this thing, a tradition with one high school, and we're the Timberwolves. So it's, we're taking not that I'm an NC State fan. I love Coach Dorn, but it's one pack, one go.
Right.
Champions in the game of life.
Right. For the 14 years that you've been here and that I've observed, the victories or the W's are just a byproduct of day-to-day preparation and discipline and commitment. They may not have been the best team on the field where they would win a game. But how they ran their lives and how you ran the program.
It's interesting. I remember back in 1995, going to the athletic director that gave me that first opportunity to be a head football, head wrestling, head track coach, and I had this list of rules, and I was really proud of that player handbook. And he said, well, you're going to have to make them follow all those. Well, it comes down to this: don't do anything or say anything away from us you wouldn't do or say in front of us. So as we look at our 4 pillars, that we look at Champions in Life, that one rule is very, it's like the golden rule. And, it covers everything. It covers our phone. It covers how we treat people, how we are at Walmart, how we are at home with our parents,
right.
how we are in the classroom.
14 years is just short of about 6 years of a generational transition where maybe a child could get married at 20 or 21. So you've been here 14 years. You've left, you've accepted another job, another challenge, and it's a new high school from what I understand.
Yes, sir. They merged East and West Montgomery. So 7 years ago, East and West Montgomery were at the top of the food chain when it came to 1A football.
Okay.
Former Pinecrest assistant Ben Hammer was at East, and a former Richmond County assistant, Nick Edens, was at West. And they played a game that they say is the largest attended football game in the history of Montgomery County.
Really?
6,500 people. And I remember a young man named Joe Leake picked a punt, bounced. He picked it up and went in for the game-winning score. I remember that because Ben was like my son. And after that, when Ben and Nick left, it just the last couple years the schools were in existence, they knew they were merging. Numbers became extremely, extremely low. The middle school numbers were non-existent. The youth numbers became low. They merged the schools, but it was on 2 campuses, and then COVID hit. So really it is literally starting a brand new tradition.
Okay. So you're basically starting a combination of the 2 schools into one. It's like building a program from the ground up.
Yes, sir.
What division will they be in?
3A, and that's it. We're the smallest 3A school. And if you took away our early college, we would be 2A. But we are the smallest 3A school, and it's crazy that we are in the toughest 3A conference, which is eerily similar to us down here. In all our years, our 4A conference was considered top to bottom the toughest. So lot of similarities, a lot of positives. Like people are just hungry to see kids be a part of something. No one's mentioned the W word. They've talked about success. We are trying to ride for the brand. We want everybody in that community wearing that black and gold. And the colors are just, the whole setting is like App State. The colors are just like App State. So we're kind of trying to rebrand the school, the program. When I say rebrand, or brand it, not rebrand, brand it. And it's exciting. Dr. Ellis is a superintendent, former college football player. Son played college football. He's an App State guy. The principal is Ann McClain, who actually retired from Moore County Schools and came out of retirement to be the principal. Wow. Phenomenal leader. Athletic director Stephanie Panzer, who is in the App State Hall of Fame as a volleyball player. Just a great vision. The community's hungry. And, obviously we've been there now. I've been up there now a week and a half and have met nothing but people that are kid-centric. Everything focuses on kids, a different social economic setting up there.
Right.
But everything centers around the school.
The way you describe the school, it makes me think of the that Friday Night Lights culture. That football is a very, very big part, or will be a very big part of that culture up there. And you have, I guess, a great opportunity. 14 years here, you establish a lot of relationships.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to just quickly share this with you because I think it speaks volumes. A couple of weeks ago, my brother, who went to Clemson on a full scholarship and then transferred out, was on the track. He was a shot putter, and he broke the ACC record in his very first track meet. And he had a coach in high school, and Ray was rated in the top 10 in the country.
Wow.
And he went to what was called the Golden Bear track meet the day after his high school graduation. And they only took the top 10 from each track and field event. And his coach went with him, and he was written up in the New York Times, and they had a caricature of him, you know. So a few weeks ago, his wife passed away, my brother's wife. Yeah, she had ALS, and she went very quickly. My brother's 60. And he called me, and we spoke, and one of the people he called that first day was his coach.
Wow.
His track coach, Bob Waterman. Bob is close to 80 now and lives on the coast of Virginia. And so Ray and Marcia, his wife, they had a house together. And I said to Ray, you know, come on down, change the scenery, come down and spend a couple of days. And he was hesitant at first because he had to process everything. So I said to my other sister, I said, you know, Ray's going to come, but he's going to tie the trip in to see me to go see Coach Waterman. Mm. And guess what? That's exactly what he's going to do. The point, I don't want to be long-winded about it, but it made me think of you because the impression that you leave with these athletes, these student athletes, is indelible and lasts way beyond their teenage years. My brother turned 60, and he called they're very close. Those relationships mean something, and you've got to think of some players that you've had relationships with too.
Well, I just look, for example, Damien Decatur, his dad in June of 2007, he was a Hurricane Katrina evacuee. They'd gone to Buffalo, New York. They had some family here right out, and his dad literally showed up and said, hey, I just registered my son. He likes football. What time are y'all done? I said, noon, sir. He said, have a good day. And Damon goes on to be a starter for 2 years, was a team captain on the 10-3 team his senior year, which was our third year. Ran for over 100 yards against Richmond the night we upset them in the season of 2008 when they won it. Well, now he is our assistant head coach down here.
Oh, is that right?
So he went to play in college, got his exercise physiology degree, is running a workout facility in Raleigh, and is, felt led by the Lord to get into education. So he was coaching with us as a paraprofessional. He is now the director of strength and conditioning for Montgomery County.
Whoa. And
he is going to teach and coach at the high school. You look at a Travis Scales who came to the original Breakfast of Champions, the middle school workouts, came to our camps, went on to be a 3-year starter, went on to be an All-American at Fayetteville State University. He's coaching at Pinecrest, getting ready to really take the next step and get married. And, he's another guy. And then I think of guys like Tucker Lee. Tucker Lee, at our first team camp, I'll never forget it, was 3 days. It was three-hour practice a day. He wanted it so bad his feet were bleeding. He's flat-footed. Tucker went on to be a team captain for us, went to App State, started 3 years, now works for Lee Electric, and has volunteer coached at Pinecrest ever since the day he got out of high school. And to see him, a T.J. Cycle, who's a local realtor with Mr. Linscomb, once again went to App State, played a little ball there, coming back.
Right.
It's Antoine Murchison, who was with us the defense coordinator for years, went to be a head coach, came back. I'm his children's godfather. I was in his wedding. I look at that. It was Will Milliken. We drove up to the outside of Greensboro to his wedding. He had one college scholarship, and that was to Gardner Webb University, where he was a 3-time All-American.
Huh.
The stories go on and on. It's it's the seniors this year. I mean, the Garbar twins, Gibson, McCray, Mac McFadden, their parents dropped them off at camp when they were like 6 years old. So they went to camp from the time they were 6 years old. They were the senior class during a pandemic. As sophomores, they went to the state semis. As seniors, they went to the Elite Eight. But it's not about the state semis that were the Elite Eight. They led our program through the pandemic.
Right.
They led a community through the pandemic.
Right.
They are truly student athletes. All 4 of those boys. The list goes on. The Garbarks, Gibson, and Mac McFadden, over 4.0 students, going to the next level.
Right.
That, their parents believed in it. To be here 14 years, over 28% of my life, I'm 51, getting ready to be 51. And to see kids grow up, and then obviously my own children. I mean, my daughter, Jaden, rode her bike for the first time without training wheels at Pinecrest High School.
Yeah.
My daughter was an athletic trainer, and she was also the Sugar Plum Fairy and Nutcracker. But, they grew up on the sidelines. The girls would come down and run sprints with the team we first moved here. My son was a ball boy,
right.
Went on to play a little bit at App State, and now he's in the Navy. And, to see that happen, and, I think part of the reason we even entertained, because now the Lord has blessed me with my best friend, Kathy, and we've been together for 4 seasons, going into our 5th season, meaning football seasons.
I understand.
And now this is kind of like our opportunity to build it together, because behind any great man is a great woman that supports what they do.
So 14 years ago, you came here with your family. 14 years later, you are actually leaving now, and there have been a lot of reformulations. Your children are grown. They're out of the house. I guess what we'll just say is that you've come full circle,
yes,
and new beginnings coming
yes,
up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to come back in the second set, and what I want to do, Dorothy, is play a couple of excerpts from the last time Chris was on the show, which was in December of 2019, just before the pandemic. He had 3 of his players here and a young man by the name of Gary Head. And I want you to hear what some of the players said in their conversations with Chris, which will reinforce the conversation we're having about how the circle becomes full and what kind of an impression a coach has on the student athletes. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Do you all agree with what Coach said, the difference between being confident and being cocky? And do you see what cocky looks like? And as captains, you probably do. Go ahead, Jacob, you want
Yes, sir. With confidence, as Coach says, we like to prepare. And we like to always go into a game, knowing we have a game plan and being really confident with it. But we never want to be cocky. We never want to talk trash or anything after a win. We want to just focus on the next thing and just always move on.
Yeah. Is it temptation, Gary, sometimes to talk trash if you win? Does that get to you?
No, not really.
You keep it soft and humble?
Yeah.
Understated?
Yeah.
Yeah. Devin, you agree between
Yes, sir.
cocky and
Yes,
confident?
sir. I think the difference is exactly what Coach said. Being confident is knowing what you're doing, knowing what we do, and sticking to the blueprint that we always have. Being cocky is not needed when you know what you want to do.
Right. It goes back to that saying, you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk. You see too many people these days, they talk the talk, But you know that expression that behavior never lies? You ever hear that expression?
Yes, sir.
It's true. People will reveal themselves to you, and you don't have to say anything. Levi, why was Coach yawning? Now, I will say this in his defense. We're taping the show. It's about 4:30 on a Monday afternoon, and he was talking. He can't even keep his eyes open. What's going on with that? What's that all about? You can say it.
Honestly, he's probably a little bit tired after doing this for so many years. I know he's wide awake right now. He's just getting a feel for things. He's still trying to wake up a little bit, but at the same time, he's kind of tired. So he's getting there. He's getting there.
Coach, what time did these guys get up this morning?
I think they all probably got up right around 4:45.
How do you know that?
Well, because we start practice early, and
How? 7, 8 o'clock?
we have our staff meeting at 5 a.m. and then we have our team meeting at 5:40. The boys have treatment at 5:15, and I've been blessed. I got to have it starting in 1976. I was a paper boy. I used to have to get up at 4:30 from 1976 until 1988 when I went to college. So Mondays and Tuesdays, I like to get up about 3:15. Have some quiet time, and then get a lot of stuff done before our staff meeting.
Quiet time at 3:15.
Yes, sir. It is quiet, too.
Gary, how does a prospect of, let's say you become a varsity football player. So what time does your practice starts?
Well, we have our team meeting at 5:40, so they're all sitting in their chairs.
Where are you at 5:40 in the morning?
In my bed, asleep.
What time do you normally get up?
Like 6:40.
Yeah. That changes when you, as you get older, I guess. So you guys, you have your morning practice, then you go to class, right? Anything after school?
After school, usually, we have a fourth period football where we like to watch film. We lift a little bit, and on like today, like Mondays, we stay after for a little longer and watch a little more film and get prepared for the next game.
So by 7 o'clock, you're home. You've had dinner. You guys you have to be in bed early.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Some of us have to work.
Except some of us have to work. What
Yes,
do you
sir.
do?
I work on a farm, and I also work for a costume place where I dress up for like different occasions, birthday parties, stuff like that.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's great.
Yes,
So
sir.
you have a part-time job. You're a full-time athlete and a full-time student.
Yes, sir.
I like that. Your days are full. Right?
Yes, sir.
Do you guys work? Do you guys have jobs or summer jobs?
I do during the summer, but during the season, I just kind of wanted to focus on that.
Yeah.
During the summer and during the
Devin?
season on the weekends, I work for a construction company.
Good for you guys. The younger you start working, the better it is. And you make your way as you go, right? What is it about, what does team spirit mean to you guys? I want to ask you all.
Team
Jacob?
spirit to us is, just everyone kind of being all in. And we say that a lot, like you're either all in or you're all out. And, it comes in with like not complaining about the early practices, always just working. And, the stands, the community is always just kind of behind us. And, that's a really great feeling on Friday night. Even if it's a away game, it could be 2 hours away and we still got fans out there in the stands.
Yeah. Levi?
Jacob pretty much said it all, but back to what he said, not complaining about practices. Of course, you're going to wake up, you're going to be tired, but you learn to love it. You're expected to love it, so you better learn to love it.
Devin?
Coach always says it during games. We have our guys playing, then we also have our guys on the sideline who are cheering us on and always clapping and everything, keeping us upbeat and everything, and that's a big part of what we do.
So you guys set the tone for your teammates, right? You guys are the benchmark, and they're looking to you, the underclassmen especially. Chris, is that how they elevate themselves?
No doubt about it. People use the term family a lot, which is think it's an acronym. Forget about me, I love you. Meaning, others before self, servant leadership, and our guys really emulate that. We do different activities during the off season, whether it's reading a John Gordon book, The Power of the Positive Team, or talking about the 7 C's, or we call it a circle of trust, but it's really a circle of affirmation where we'll take the seniors, put them in a circle, and everybody else is around them, and we'll tell them a good quality about each of them. Then the following week we'll switch it. And we're just constantly trying to get the guys to grow closer together, because being blessed to be in this area around the high-level military, seeing successful business people like yourself, it's all about relationships. Right. So they've got to have that trust. And, at the end of the day, we tell the guys all the time, we're just like the train conductors. We're there for them, trying to help them out. And without failure, kids come back. It might be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. They come back and they're like, Coach, I'm married, got 2 kids, I just got promoted. And I look back to the values, the blueprint, the 4 pillars, and what we learned from the program. Mm-hmm. And we kid around. It ain't like every day the kids like us or what we're doing, but they always love us.
Levi agrees
I know.
with you.
Well, I've known him since he moved here, but they always love us, and they know we love them. And sometimes we don't necessarily like them, but we love them, and we understand what's the big picture.
Yeah. So it's not service to self; it's service to others.
Yes, sir.
And that means you need to check your ego at the door, right? Gary, I want to include you in this conversation because you're listening to these guys, but successful people or successful athletes or successful people are serving others as opposed to just serving themselves. And they'll get more if they do it that way. And as a team, it's not the individual, right? It's the team that works together. Make sense?
Yeah.
Do you see that when you watch football, like when you watch the Falcons? Do you see them? Is it all about the team? Is it about individuals? Do you see there certain, like sometimes you see an athlete and you go, he's a hot dog.
Yeah.
Right? And he stands out a little bit too much?
Yeah, when I see the Falcons, I definitely see I see a lot of people complaining about, like, people saying that other people aren't doing their jobs correctly when you just, like, you could just do your job correctly and help other people out, but they just got to complain about other people. Like the D-line will, like, blame the secondary or stuff like that.
Say that again?
Like the D-line will, like, blame the secondary, or the secondary will blame the D-line.
So how do you think that would make Coach Metzger feel if he was the coach of the Atlanta Falcons and he heard all that?
I think it would make the coach feel frustrated because when you're a team, you have to play as a unit, So
right.
I think that would make the coach very frustrated.
Very well said.
Very well said.
Huh?
Very well said. Through the mouth of babes.
Right?
You know what I mean? And wow. We'll have to give Coach Quinn a call.
That's crazy.
From the Falcons.
Yeah. When a locker room is divided and you hear about all this dysfunction and stuff, the team usually doesn't perform really well, and then they start the blame game, right? Has that happened with you guys in your tenure at Pinecrest?
Levi?
It
it happens, but we just all learn to come together. So, like, the past few games, whenever a drive wouldn't go the way we want it to go, we would have other people blaming each other, and then all of a sudden, everything's in the past. It's just on to the next drive. Playing football, you have to have a short-term memory. If you get scored on, you can also stop them the next drive. So it's not going to consistently be bad or be good. You just have to have a short memory.
Yeah.
Come with the next play.
Yeah. That's sort of like living in the moment. Jacob?
Yeah, like Levi said, it's very easy to let something like that creep in. But when you have a bunch of individuals that are focused on a bigger goal, and they don't really care who gets the credit, it's amazing how much can be accomplished.
Yeah, very well said. Guys, we're going to break and come back in the second set. This is All Things Moore County. We're talking all about the Pinecrest Patriots. They're a very successful program, not just in winning football games, but in raising good guys, good people. And Gary Head, who is our guest. Maybe in a couple of years, Gary, we'll see you at this table again, but you'll be sitting over there where those guys are with your Pinecrest t-shirt on. We're back now with Chris in the studio. I think that excerpt from that show talks a lot about the loyalty that his players feel, the spirit that they have amongst each other, the cooperation. And I keep thinking back what an impression Chris made on Gary Head, who is a great young man, very well-spoken, articulate for his age, a good athlete, and a good kid with a good heart. And you could hear the players kind of take to him as well, and they all liked him. But there was definitely a sense of unity amongst all of them. Chris, let's come back in the third set, and let's talk a little bit about things other than football, but a little bit more about maybe some of the memories that you've had here and some of the people that have impacted you. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to All Things Moore County. We're going to wrap up the show in the third set talking with Chris Metzger, and who has been here for 14 years with Pinecrest and is moving on and starting again and building a new challenge, I guess. And you've already started that work. But in looking back, I reached out to David Sinclair.
Yes, sir.
David is well known in Moore County, and David has chronicled, I don't know how many of the 14 years, he's gotten to know all the families, the kids, he's seen some of the stories close up, and he wrote me an email this morning. I just want to read it. I think the world of Coach Metzger and what he has done for Pinecrest football, all the players he has impacted, and the impact the program that he has had on the school and the community. His leaving is a big loss for both Pinecrest and the community, but I wish him all the best in his new job, David Sinclair. He had a catbird seat to a lot of what you're talking about, didn't he?
Yes, sir. He was unbelievable. He was on the sidelines. He was in post-game huddles. I mean, he was there for emotional times. He was there for the funeral of players. Right. Just a man that is really a servant leader, much like yourself, others before self, and just walked the walk and became part of the family to the players.
Right. That family that you built up here was more than just the players, more than a David Sinclair, but it was a lot of parents who they put their trust in you with their kids, and you probably develop relationships with some of the parents that you'll take with you wherever you go.
Without a doubt, we had a lot of coaches talk about parent relations and parent issues. Well, we don't have issues. We have solutions when things happen. And we had the great parents. I'm not so naive to think that they didn't wish we passed more here, did more here.
Sure.
But I think the greatest thing about our parents is they knew their child was loved and we had their best interests, and there was a mutual respect, and that they really did. We wanted them to be champions in the game of life. They might not have always seen eye to eye on things, but the other thing we always had, we had a rule: we're not going to talk about playing time with any parent. That was like a program rule, and what that did is that developed our young men into becoming confident. Because if they truly felt like they should be in there, they could come in there and have a meeting with myself in a position coach, and we could discuss what needed to happen. And, through those meetings developed a lot of success stories. I mean, I just think about this year, young man, Sovereign Norton, great kid, great leader. He was very patient. He was in special teams. Well, then in the fourth quarter of the Apex Friendship game, when our guys upset the number one seed, he had 2 pass breakups. The list goes on and on of guys that were patient and waited their opportunity.
Right.
And we all need patience. And they did that because they believed and because they were valued. It wasn't just Bill Sahadi, the star, was valued. Everybody was valued. I mean, this year our guys, we're the only school in the state that had 3 teams. We ended the season with 173 young men in a football program.
Wow.
Well, 11 were playing at a time, but they believed and they wanted to be a part of it. And they wanted to be, no matter what the shape, size, or color. There was a lot of, there was the pandemic, there was civil unrest. Well, there was no civil unrest in a Pinecrest High School football program in the field house in that locker room, because that's where, boys become men. That's where boys, no matter what shape, size, or color, became family. And family means forget about me, I love you. And they bought into that. And I think the coaches this year in particular, more than ever, got a lot of adult men. What made it so enjoyable is everybody had a common goal. Yeah. It was kid-centric, focused on the kids. Yeah. And that's what made it special. And we had a tremendous group of kids. Every year we've had tremendous group of kids.
A couple of years ago, I had a friend, a young man that I was mentoring, Zach Lopez.
Yes, sir.
Zach was a freshman or sophomore in high school. Great kid, natural athlete, didn't have a lot of discipline, didn't have much structure. If you don't have structure at that age, you can get in trouble.
Yes, sir.
And I remember having conversations with him saying, I want you to go out for the football team. I'm not doing that. I go, why? He goes, I don't like these I'm not getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? He was one of those kids that just sort of, he had his cake and eat it too. But you did get him finally. And he graduated. He was a defensive back. And he may not have been a star player, but I can tell you from firsthand experience, he's a great young man. He's just signed up in the military. He's got a self-esteem that he never had before. And he's worked for me. He's done some things for me at the Stuber house we were talking about at the break. And I'm proud of him. And I'm proud that he did it. And you made a difference in his life. He didn't have to be the marquee player, but he got what you were giving.
Well, it's interesting because sometimes in leadership we get way too much credit. Our staff, my name gets thrown around a lot, but our staff is just unbelievable in the family atmosphere. We kind of have to say there's not a gray area. You're either all in the boat to serve these kids or you're not. And just to be surrounded by men like that, like a Antoine Murchison, Travis Scales, Curtis Holt, Jim Bird, Damian Decatur, Jason Sparks, Cameron Bennett, the list goes on and on of guys, Ryan Riggin, who's now the assistant AD over at Sand Hills Community College, a Mike Vod, who had a great career at Northmore High School, a Jeff Walters, who just got done serving our country, a Dave Nielsen, a Rivers Hall. I mean, the list goes on and on of, former Patriots, Tucker Lee, Josh Joyce, TJ Cycle, guys that just believed in that blueprint and came back.
Yeah. You've written a book here, in a way, and you're going to be writing another chapter in that book. You've already put a few chapters in that book, but, you are going to be in a unique position as you continue forward to be able to look back at all these chapters and enjoy the success and enjoy what you built and what you've left. We're sorry to see you go, but I know I can speak for a lot of people. They only wish you the best because the community has changed because of your presence and your staff's presence. I get that you don't want it just on you. I get it. But the supporters and the booster club, you had a very enthusiastic group of people. I'm sure you want to talk a little bit about them.
Oh, beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, you look at Pinecrest High School.
Yep.
And you look at March 2007 to today. I mean, you go in the locker room.
Yep.
Brand new senior locker room.
Yeah.
Funds raised by our players and our parents.
Right.
2 helmets, funds raised by our players and our boosters. A meeting room, funds raised by our players and boosters and parents.
Right.
Jumbotron, funds raised by our players, boosters, parents, community. Brand new weight room, largest weight room in the state, 32 racks. Funds raised by a brother in Christ, Tom Van Camp, who believed in the blueprint.
Right.
Practice fields, meticulous, that were taken care of by volunteer Tom Benton for free.
Yep.
For free.
Yep.
For 9 years. Uniforms, funds raised by players, parents, community, boosters.
Right.
The best of the best. Kids who believe in the more, if I want to win a title, I got to pick up a towel and serve. Not afraid of community service.
Right.
young men that believe in being a part of something great. Memories that when they're my age, 51, your age, not quite that old, 51, but they'll remember that, and that's the champions in the game of life. Football's going to go away. Look at a Sean Pollard.
Yep.
Sean's going to come talk to our team next week. He's got 12 rings, 2 national championships, 4 ACC, 8 bowl games, this and that. But those rings don't define him.
Right.
To have guys like Sean and Jalen and Leighton and Tucker, the list goes on. They're going to come up with these guys and say, what you're being asked to do is uncommon, but to be uncommon is to be special. Just follow the blueprint. That's going to be special.
You had Sean on this show years ago. He was a sophomore or junior at the time, soft-spoken guy, and of course he went to Clemson, and you could watch him on TV and see him on social media. But from what I understand, he's an old soul and with a good heart.
Oh, unbelievable.
Right?
I mean, just to be able to talk to these guys. He's married. Will's married. Guys are getting married. The Heimrichs. Brett Heimrich, Danny Heimrich. Danny, a big-time federal probation officer. Brett runs the First Health Community Center in Rockingham.
Yeah.
Top long-snapping coach in the country. Just to see these guys Spencer Bishop works for NASCAR. Was a preferred walk-on, then a 3-year starter at Wake Forest University. Huh. I mean, Bryce Kennedy, who went to NC State, is a Fortune 500 accountant, married his high school sweetheart, lives in Raleigh. For him to come to the Wake Forest game this year, be on that sideline and encourage our guys, which means to give courage to. That's what it's all about.
Right. That's very inspiring. It really is. You're a difference maker. Dorothy, he reminds me a little bit of the Jimmy Stewart character in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, except that he didn't have to leave to be appreciated and then come back and see what the world would have been without him. Chris had the opportunity to see what difference he could make here, and just in recapping what he's done, he's going to be able to take some happy memories with him and leave some very good memories here in Moore County. Chris, we wish you all the very best. It's been a pleasure. You've been on the show 4 or 5 times.
Yes, sir.
Every time you've come on, we've loved to talk shop with you. And you're not a football coach, you're a teacher. And, by the way, football is the hook. And sure, the X's and O's mean something, but what those guys do with it and how you get them from here to there is incredible. Very impressed.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. You've been obviously a supporter for 14 straight years.
Yep.
Been there, consistent, a consistent brother, and I appreciate that.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Kind of bittersweet, but important that you were on the show. And we'll be following. There'll be a lot of people in southern Moore County following Montgomery High School.
Thank you. Have a great day, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks very much. Chris Metzger. Everybody have a great week.